you are never young enough to solve a problem and or anything like that. Programming, I learned all by myself. So I really see it as a tool for us as human beings. A simple mistake of not social distancing correctly could cause someone to lose their life.
Hello and welcome. Today we have a very inspiring guest. She is Neha Shukla, a 16-year-old who has confidence in solving real-world problems by leveraging science and technology. Neha is a 2021 global team leader for her efforts in innovation and global outreach. She's also recognized by late Princess Diana of Wales by receiving the Diana Award, as well as the President of the United States for creating 6 feet apart to save lives amid COVID-19 pandemic. And we are excited to tell you that she's the emerging empowler for issue 12. We are so delighted to have you here. We just talked about a raw conversation with you, and welcome, Neha. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here with you today.
So let me start with a first question. You started out in this field of science and technology at a very young age. What experiences sparked your interest in STEM fields? Was it from personal calling, and was it an easy path?
That's a really good question. So let me begin by saying that I've been innovating and creating solutions to real world problems since I was about 10 years old. So I've really been excited about just solving problems I see in my community and really trying to create a positive change however I could. So when I was 10, I would create little block coded apps and, mess around with 3D printing and all these different tools and technologies and pretty much do whatever I could to put a smile on someone's face, to solve a problem, whether that's small or big in my community. And really that's where it all started from. So I think since I was a little kid, I loved science and technology because of its capacity to solve problems and to have that human aspect, right? I don't necessarily see science and technology as how a simple mistake of not social distancing correctly could cause someone to lose their life. I guess I really see it as a tool for us as human beings to create a better world for ourselves, right? We're always seeing problems of like sustainability and like climate change, the pandemic that's happening right now. And so we're seeing so many problems around us. And I really think that the biggest tool to solve them is science and technology. So that's kind of why I always gravitated towards it when I was a kid. And I definitely think that you asked if it was an easy path. And I think when we're little and we have this like boundless imagination, it is definitely really easy to, get started and to come up with ideas and brainstorm and have all these, amazing ideas and of prototypes and things that you can create. But I think as we start to get older, you can really start to see a gap between girls in science and technology or people of color, and especially young people in innovation and in science and technology. And we're seeing how there is just this massive divide where it's usually, older male scientists and then a gap between young people who want to create a change. And so I would definitely say that this gap has become more and more evident as, the further I'm going in my career and the more, experience I'm getting, it's really becoming more evident. So I think it's interesting to see how there's this gap. And, that's really one of the things I try to address by running these innovation and STEM workshops for young people. So that's kind of something that I hope to bridge the gap as I continue, moving forward.
The stuff for your workshops was really amazing. I heard reviews about it. It's just fabulous. And as you said about the discrimination as a girl and as color, etc. So you're an Indian origin. How does it feel as an Indian living in the United States? Or do you miss India? What's your favorite part about India?
Yes. I'm so proud to be of Indian origin. I'm so proud, that India is my like heritage, and I really it comes with a place of a lot of pride. And being an Indian living in the United States, and being an Indian American, I guess, is really an amazing experience because the United States is honestly so welcoming, and there's so many opportunities here. And as we're seeing so many Indian origin people becoming CEOs of big tech companies like Twitter, Vimeo, like it's amazing to see all this happening. And I really think that it's such an amazing place to be. I think US is a real, I guess, a place for innovation and progress to happen, and that's so exciting for me. And I think my favorite part of India is just going there, visiting for vacations and seeing family and everything like that. It gives me a lot of pride and joy to see my country.
We missed out food. Food is the most important
Food,
part
yes.
of being an Indian. Yeah, Indians are all around the world, so I
Yeah.
think United States is a part of it. Can you tell us something about 6 Feet Apart? What led you to create it? How did you take the first step in pursuing 6 feet? I feel a lot of people have ideas, but it's difficult to create into something. So, what was the Kickstarter for you to start 6 feet apart?
That is a really good question. So I think, and let me just start off by introducing 6 Feet Apart to those who aren't aware. So, when I was sitting home in the pandemic, I was seeing how COVID-19 was taking such a sharp impact on our communities. So I created 6 Feet Apart, which is a wearable social distancing device that uses the latest developments in ultrasonic technology and microprocessors, as you can see on the inside of this device. So you pretty much just wear this hat, and it alerts you proactively when an approaching person is coming within the 6 foot detection range so that you can take a step back to prevent the spread of COVID-19. So that's essentially what the device is. And I've also created, a lanyard and an armband version of the same 6 Feet Apart device. But let me take you back to, I guess, how it came about and how I decided to kind of create this device. So back when the COVID-19 pandemic hit, like, let me take you back to March of 2020. I was sitting at home, our school was completely shut down. Our entire country was really in lockdown. And I was literally looking outside my bedroom window, and I was seeing how my neighbors were walking outside and how they weren't able to maintain a safe social distance. And then it really hit me how a simple mistake of not social distancing correctly could cause someone to lose their life. And I just thought that was so wrong. And I didn't want something like that to be happening to my family or my community. So I was like, okay, how do I create a solution to address this problem? And I just started thinking about everything that I possibly could think of. And really, I was thinking about, okay, well, what's the root problem here? I'm not trying to, come up with a vaccine for COVID-19 because I'm a kid and I don't have a lab. I'm sitting in my house. So, okay, I can't do that. Then really, what is the reason why the COVID-19 pandemic is spreading? And the reason is because it's a respiratory virus and, all of the things that we know all about. And I was like, okay, social distancing is the tool that we can prevent, the virus from spreading in the airborne form. So, okay, how can we measure distance without getting a tape measure out every time we want to, leave the house? And then I started looking into microprocessors and sensor devices and all of these new technologies that I really was not familiar with. Like before I even created 6 Feet Apart, I had never built a microprocessor device, never, touched a sensor. And it's crazy to see how, I really think it's like a project-based learning system. So for me, like I in everything that I know about technology, whether that's AI, microprocessors, sensor technology, creating apps or anything like that, programming, I learned all by myself. So it's just really self-taught and using the resources that you can find on the internet. So I just started building different prototypes, trying whatever I could to make it work. And, reaching out to people in my community saying, if I created this, would this be something that you could use? Would this be helpful to you? So really getting input from people, especially the people who would be using the device, was a really big thing that I did. So I
It
really
is
think
really
that
helpful.
yeah,
Saving
I
a lot
mean,
of lives.
thank you so much. And I really think that, any young person can do this. If it's me, like if I can do this, really anybody can. And it's all about, I feel like all of us as young people have, ideas and, desires to help people and communities that we really have a special place in our heart for that, I really want to help this marginalized community because I feel like I'm connected to them in some way or whatever that might be. We all have that drive and that motivation to solve problems. And really, I think that's where we need to have a framework to actually address those problems, right? Because I don't know what in me told me that, I can solve this problem. It's crazy because a lot of young people are like, I have this great idea. This could, address, so many problems, but, I'm just a kid. Like, if I thought of this, probably 20 other people have already thought of it and created it. But no, like you have to pursue those ideas and those moments and those sparks of inspiration is really where the biggest innovations come from. So I would just say to, all young people, you are never young enough to solve a problem. And really, whenever you have an idea like that or a moment of inspiration where something hits you and you're like, I need to do this, please follow through on that. Like society really needs young innovators to start creating solutions to real world problems. And, that's something that I'm really passionate about.
Yeah, I mean, I think passion is what drives you, and where you are today, passion has driven you a long way. Every young person needs to hear the inner voice, I feel. But I feel, there's a period of time, or rather, currently is in India where people have forgotten about social distancing, sanitization. But with the new variant, I think it's quite difficult to continue with such a mentality. So, what would your message be to those people? What do you think the future holds with the new variant, and what would your current focus be on, and your future endeavors leading to innovation, related to innovation?
Yeah. So for, I guess, the new Omicron variant of the pandemic, I would just say my biggest piece of advice is just follow what your local officials are telling you to. I think there's no one size fits all solution for, this new variant as well as any future variants of the pandemic. Like we really don't know what's going to be happening next. So my piece of advice would be stick to what the scientists are saying. They've spent so much time studying this, as well as your local officials. And, I think every country and even every state or town is different in terms of how they're handling the pandemic. So I would just say follow those guidelines. And it's crazy to think about how the situation is so rapidly evolving. We first had, just normal COVID-19 and then the Delta variant and, all of these new variants. And it's crazy to think that, eventually the pandemic will become endemic and we'll kind of have to deal with this as a part of, day-to-day life. So it's interesting to think about that, but I would definitely say follow the guidelines that are set by your town and community. But then in terms of my future goals for innovation and my career and everything like that, I'm really excited to be, working on new projects and working on new innovations as well as outreach. So essentially, after I created 6 Feet Apart, I've been working on tons of other innovations. I've created Mobile Me, which is a microprocessor and device and AI algorithm paired with an app that essentially slows or I guess proactively prevents the falls of elderly due to mobility loss. So, how when we see, elderly falling and we're like, oh, we need to, create an alert system to rescue them. It's when they fall, the damage has already been done, so creating a system to really prevent them from falling in the first place by analyzing their gait patterns, walking patterns, and then essentially providing a personalized treatment to prevent them from falling. So that's one of the projects I've been working on. I'm now kind of looking more into climate change related solutions, which is really exciting, and diagnosing neurodegenerative diseases. So I have a lot of different ideas that I'm working on currently. But really from the innovation side, I'm kind of pivoting towards outreach. So since I guess the start of the pandemic, I've been running workshops for K through 12 students all across the world for innovation and STEM. So I've reached about 52,000 students so far, which is really crazy since it's amazing to see like that kind of impact. But essentially my goal with these workshops is to build the next generation of young innovators and problem solvers that are just tackling the world's biggest problems. So I, share my 3-step innovation framework with them. And we really go through live interactive activities to, so that students can, when they come into the workshop, they might have an idea or a passion, and by the end they have a tangible innovation that they can start working on, creating that change, implementing into their community. So within like 45 minutes, kids are, as young as first and second grade, are coming up with solutions to real world problems. And it's honestly crazy to see that. And you can really imagine the kind of impact these kids would have if they can use this framework and really develop their solutions over like months or even a year. If they're able to come up with a solution in 45 minutes, imagine the potential in 1 year. It's crazy to me. And really that gets me super excited. And to kind of, because I know I can't really reach every single student in all the audiences that I want to, I'm really excited to be releasing my book, Innovation for Everyone, Solving Real World Problems with STEM, which will be released next year in around the summertime. And I'm really excited because that will be like a super comprehensive guidebook for students and educators and organizations to either kickstart their innovation journey or help a young person begin innovating and begin, solving problems. So I'm really excited about that.
Forward to reading the book.
What?
Is not an author. He'll be looking forward to reading your book.
Oh, thank you so much. That's so sweet of you. And I'm really excited to, be releasing that and so much more content for young innovators. And the book really hopes to be really interactive and something that students can read over and over again as they start the next phase of their innovation journey. So I'm really excited to kind of have that impact on students and give back, because I know that there are so many communities that, especially during the pandemic, haven't had access to, I guess, such a quality education as some others have, like the gap in technology or the gap in, resources. So I really hope to kind of bring that change and give kids resources to, create innovations, solve problems, and become young change makers. That's what I really want to see, have this really massive movement of young innovators that are solving problems and addressing issues that they really care about, because I think that our generation has such a potential to create change. And even though we're young, we have so many ideas and so much power to, create a movement.
Youth is the future of the country, and they have power. They hold the power. It's fabulous. Apart from STEM, you're also quite passionate about entrepreneurship, and we know the Girls with Impact program helps you realize your passion for creating change, something of your own. Could you elaborate on your journey with Girls with Impact?
I really loved my journey with Girls with Impact. So while I was creating 6 Feet Apart back at the start of the pandemic, I recently joined the Girls with Impact program. So as I was independently building out all the technology and the program and everything, the hardware of it, I was also, the Girls with Impact program allowed me to see, the entrepreneurship side of things. Like if I were to sell this product, who would my customers be? Who's my target market? What are the strengths and weaknesses of this idea? And so having both sides, the scientific side and technology side, as well as the entrepreneurship side, is honestly so beneficial, because, I think an innovation cannot reach people if it stays in a lab. You need entrepreneurship to bring it out into the real world. And, one of the later chapters in my book really talks about how you can, after you've created your innovation, how can you impact the communities that you're trying to reach? How can you partner with organizations? And I think Girls with Impact is honestly such a great platform to learn how to bring those innovations and those ideas and prototypes into the real world with those like tangible skills and partnerships and all those things. So for young people who are excited to create change, I would definitely say, the combination of STEM and entrepreneurship is just the best way to go.
Right. I mean, I strongly believe whichever field we are in, irrespective, entrepreneurship plays a very important part in it, and which is very good. You are currently a 16-year-old who's in high school. What are your future plans after high school?
That is so exciting. I have a lot of, it's crazy to think how, I don't know, like I've grown up during this entire pandemic, and, now I'm even 17, which is like crazy, recently turned 17. And I think my plans for the future involve a lot of partnerships with organizations that I'm really excited about. I'm going to be partnering with the Washington Global Health Alliance in a really a short amount of time. So I'm excited to have a lot of exciting projects coming out with them. But after I graduate high school, there are so many things I want to do in terms of product design, like business, entrepreneurship, technology, like so many things I'm super excited about. Definitely going to be looking forward to college after high school, which is exciting. But yeah, I think having throughout my life, I will be continuing to innovate and create solutions, and whether that's creating them myself or helping allocate the capital and resources to people and scientists who are doing that. So I think I'm really excited to just a future of problem solving and innovation. Like that is so exciting for me. So yeah, and I think also pivoting towards the different problems that we're facing, whenever the future happens. So like if currently the major problem is COVID-19, but then as we continue forward, global warming and climate change is going to be a bigger and bigger problem. So I really hope to join the effort in terms of being a young scientist dealing with climate change and other problems like that. So I think as we continue going forward, we will see some problems that are, emerging as the main focus that we have to all care about. And I'm excited to, join the effort and really try to tackle those problems.
Let's see what the future holds. You will be fabulous
Yeah.
for sure.
Thank you so much.
We all know you're a teen scientist, an inventor, an innovation advocate, and a global team leader, and now an author, and much more. You've also been featured in the New York Times and the Times Square. How surreal does all of these feel? And if it's overwhelming, how do you cope up with it?
It feels amazing. Honestly, it feels so great to see how organizations are really supporting young innovators. And that's honestly so inspiring for me, because it shows that if you do something that you really believe is worthwhile and impactful, then these kinds of recognitions, which are just really a side effect, will automatically come to you. And so like it was such a surprise when I saw that my face on the Nasdaq billboard. Like that was crazy. It was like 8 p.m. and my dad got a text message from one of his friends in New York saying, "Oh my gosh, look at this! You're not going to believe it." And it was, I was so surprised. It was crazy, but really, it's super inspiring to see how organizations are really supporting young people, and they are really incentivizing young people to create change and not just be a passive like observer of the world, but actively interact and create change if something seems wrong to you, right? And so it you ask like, is it overwhelming sometimes, or is it how do you deal with like stress? And I definitely think that balancing a lot of things and like juggling so many different things, and like if I count how many email addresses I have for like all the different like things and organizations that have given me like a .org or whatever, it's crazy. Like the amount of stuff that you have to keep track of is honestly insane. But if I ever get overwhelmed or tired or anything like that, I always I guess I'm patient with myself. I'm like, okay, you're doing a lot. It's totally okay to be tired. It's okay to be, exhausted or just wanting to have like a free day off and just, relax and chill out. So I just try to be patient with myself, honestly. And I, try to prioritize self-care more and more as well. So that's really kind of what I do. And I try to find hobbies and activities that I like to do if I am tired or, want to relax. So I think as young people, whether you're in STEM or not, I think it's important to prioritize taking care of yourself, taking care of your health, and just, well-being in general. And I guess taking a break from everything that you're doing once in a while to focus on yourself, kind of figure out where your goals and your aspirations are heading towards, and then, continuing back in the grind. So it's like, I guess having time to reflect on yourself and figure out, is this what I want to be doing? And if so, like, how can I put my 100% effort to make this the best possible, outcome that I can? So that's kind of what I do if I'm feeling overwhelmed. But it's really great to see how, organizations are so supportive of young people.
That's fabulous. I mean, this is very helpful. I feel every teenager needs to hear this because everyone goes through this. This is so great. Such an informative talk. I think I could talk to you all day, but we have a time limit. I can tell how much insight you have received into your journey. So thank you for joining us today. You've set a great example, and this was a wonderful talk. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Vanchika. It's such an honor to be speaking with you today.
Same. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.